If you hear mysterious noises and sounds, if you hear your name called when there's no one around, keep going, dear listener. This story is for you. I hope it will accomplish what I wrote it to do. In these words, you will find all the tools you'll need so that when you're faced with unimaginable things, you won't react with fear, as most people do. You'll be equipped, calm, and able to see the truth. My best, Hedy. This is What We Keep Hidden. By Nicole. Chapter 11. Different. Over the summer, we had made our way around a good portion of Betty's garden, fertilizing, weeding, and pruning the majority of her vast collection of plants. Just a few rose bushes were left to weed. The finality of reaching the end of the garden made my heartbeats quicken. Summer was almost over, and school would be starting soon. Still pondering the events of the moving door, I was too distracted to start our conversation.
What if, Betty started, people's nails grew out the opposite side of our fingers? Ugh. A snort escaped my nose.
I could always count on Betty to think of something to make me laugh. What if, she continued, since I hadn't supplied a rebuttal, what if dogs were the ones in charge, and people were the pets? I could tell she was lobbing me easy ones to get me to play. I was filled with inner worries and feared I wasn't in the right mood for our game. I looked up to find Betty slapping her knee, cracking up at her own jokes. How could I not play the game now? What if people connected the dots more, instead of always doing division? I said. Betty's laughter paused mid-guffaw. She took a breath as she wiped the sweat from her brow.
Care to elaborate, kiddo?
I don't know. Just patterns. I mean, it's so easy to find patterns around me. I see similarities in a lot of things that others don't, I guess. Plus, for every similarity I find, it seems like others come up with 5 differences and focus on those instead. I said as I troweled the ground in front of me. Okay, I get it, Betty said, the wide brim of her hat bobbing up and down as she nodded her head in agreement.
What brought this up?
Nothing. I shrugged my shoulders. I don't know. Maybe it's just new school jitters. Hoping this one isn't like my last one. Everyone's just so focused on differences. I don't see how it's going to be any different. I had it under my breath.
True. Kids are kids wherever you go. The trick is being true to you.
I know, I said, tossing aside the commonly prescribed antidote all adults give when learning about anxieties.
Do you, though? Break it down for me. Give me an example.
What do you mean? I asked.
Tell me something that bothered you at the last school.
Betty's sharp and insistent tone was not something I could brush off easily, so I thought about it. Flashes of memories crossed my thoughts. Cruel tricks from random kids was something I could deal with. Opening my backpack to find someone had spit all over my books, having chunks of my hair pulled out, items thrown at my head, were insignificant displays of adolescent stupidity. Other instances were much more painful. Like when one of my friends exploded with a rage that caught me off guard. I winced at the image of her contorted face screaming at me across the lunch table, telling me I talked about the same stupid subject too often, and she was sick of hearing it. Or the time when I was having a nice phone call with my best friend, only to be blindsided when she yelled at me for taking too long to answer her questions. Her words rattled inside my skull.
Do you even realize how irritating you are? Do you know it's torture talking to you? Hedy, you're so frustrating. This is why you have no friends. I don't even know why I stay friends with you.
My blood ran cold at the thought. I tensed my muscles, frozen, trying to stay as still as possible so the ghosts of these memories wouldn't see me and keep moving. I couldn't tell Betty the truth. She worried too much. I didn't even want to hear the truth, so I made it PG. I don't know. I said I was weird, like, too weird. I sighed.
Preposterous. There's nothing on this planet that can be too weird. Interesting? Yes. Perplexing? Maybe. But too weird? Poppycock. When was the first time they said such a thing?
Thinking back to the first time I was called weird was like sifting through a file cabinet, bursting at the seams. Well, when I was little, I heard the television go on in the next classroom over, and I said something. Nothing was playing, just the set itself turned on. When one of my classmates checked, and it was in fact on, everyone started screaming that I was a witch or something. After that, people started accusing me of being too weird. My voice trailed off as I thought about it. I thought everyone could hear the sound TVs make when they turn on.
Aha!
Betty shouted across the rose bushes.
I have a theory about where you went wrong,
She retorted.
but first, you tell me how you handled it.
I sat there wide-eyed, stunned by her response. I felt raw and vulnerable since she pried this story out of me. I blinked a few times, astonished before responding. I just got quiet and avoided them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Betty exclaimed enthusiastically.
Mistake number 1.
I dropped my trowel with a perplexed look on my face. Betty took her gardening gloves off, then waved them in front of her.
First, you should have owned up to it.
Owned up to what?
To being weird, of course. If the whole class is full of boring snippety snaps and they call you weird, then that, my dear, is a huge compliment. There's nothing worse in this world than being boring,
She said with a definitive head nod.
Second, if they start calling you a witch, you run with it. Tell them you are, and that they better watch themselves, because knowing when a TV goes on is just the tip of the iceberg of your abilities.
Betty mimed casting spells with her hands as she explained, and I could feel myself grinning at her theatrics.
When we old fogies say to stay true to yourself, it doesn't mean to keep being yourself.
Betty paused for a moment.
I mean, it does, to a point, but it also means not abandoning yourself, or playing small to avoid others' opinions. Think of it this way. Do you like baby animals?
What?
Do you like baby animals? Yes or no?
There she goes again, I thought, raising her volume to increase understanding. Yeah, of course, I answered.
Okay. If Lucy was a puppy, and you saw someone mistreating her and throwing things at her, what would you do?
Obviously, I would scoop her up and get her out of there.
Good. But what if you couldn't escape?
Then I would cover her and protect her, yell at them to stop.
Right. So when you were in school, think of yourself as both Puppy Lucy and her protector. These other kids may throw things at you, and you'll need to protect yourself, just like you would Lucy. Do you know the quickest way to disarm a bully?
No, I never really learned how to fight.
Pish posh. No one's asking you to. You just have to beat them at their own game.
I don't know if I feel comfortable saying mean things. I know how much it hurts.
Ugh, you won't have to do that either,
Betty said. Then how? I asked.
Own it, whatever they're saying. If they call you weird, say thank you and walk away. No matter what they call you, you're not thanking them for the insult. You're thanking them for showing you who they are. Next, use your best asset, kiddo. You have a wonderfully inquisitive mind, so pepper them with questions about logic. Fight back with your powers of reasoning. They'll get so frustrated with all the explanations you're making them give that you won't be so fun to tease anymore. Haven't you been in the vicinity of a toddler incessantly asking why? Even those with great mental fortitude snap eventually. My eyes widened, gleaming with this newfound power Betty showed me. You have everything you need to rescue yourself, so there's no reason to give your power away to anyone who isn't worthy of it. You try what I told you, and you can be sure you'll have a different experience at this new school. Can you at least promise to try that for me?
Yes, I beamed shyly. But how will I know if it worked?
Oh, my dear. Remember the toddler?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see the look on the caregiver's face?
Yeah. I chuckled at the thought.
Don't stop pestering them with logical questions until you get that same look. Then trust me, kiddo, they won't be bothering you anymore.
Well, I sighed, slapping my hand on my knee. Got nothing to lose at this point, so I might as well try it.
Good for you. Might even make some friends while you're at it,
Betty said.
Then you won't have to spend your days hanging out with an old lady,
she joked, sending me a wink and a smile. But I like being here, I laughed.
Aw, well, you're just saying that so I'll keep feeding you treats and lemon bars and my butterfly PT.
No, really. I knew I liked you that first day we met, I argued.
Really?
Yes, you're different.
Oh, how so?
Well, for starters, you never told me to get a purse. I grunted as I pulled a large weed from the base of the rose bush.
What?
Betty laughed. People always tell me, I said between grunts, to get a purse when I tell them I wear my raincoat for the pockets. I hate that. Ugh. I don't want a purse. Purses don't have hoods. Purses can't keep you warm. You can't hide in a purse. I explained, taking my frustration out on the remaining weeds. Betty had stopped working and was watching me huff about, pulling the weeds with more force than was necessary.
Do you tell them that? She asked.
Tell them what? I said. My tone came out more gruff than I meant it to be.
What you just said, she answered. Tell them you don't like purses. They're not as useful as the coat.
I used to, I started. But they would just bulldoze right over my words and tell me all sorts of things like, ladies wear purses to hold their things. Tell your mama to take you shopping. Just start wearing one and then you'll like it. I mimicked in a high-pitched tone. Betty's silence prompted me to look up, and I saw she was staring down at the ground in front of her, biting back laughter. A few quick snorts escaped her nose when she looked up and noticed I had already caught her.
You do a marvelous impression,
she chuckled.
You're right, though. The world is full of bulldozers. It is our job to navigate our way through life without being flattened into a pancake by one of them.
She carved through the air in front of her with her spade. Well, it's exhausting, which is why I like being with you. You say what you mean. Other than my parents, it was rare to find acceptance in other people.
Oh, yuck.
Betty's voice echoed. Well, my worst fear just happened. I opened up with my feelings and was immediately shot down. I looked up to see Betty covering her nose and mouth with a garden-gloved hand. The other furiously swatted the air around her.
What the?
Lucy, who had decided weeks ago to show Betty more affection than anyone else, including myself, was curled up right next to her. If Betty moved, Lucy moved. That was the strength of their attachment. Her little face peered at us sideways with flushed cheeks. I think that was Lucy, I suggested.
Yes, yes.
Betty's words were muffled through her glove.
I'm quite aware of the reputation most terrier breeds carry.
She stood up and backed away, then briskly started walking back to the house, muttering to herself the whole way, but loud enough for me to hear.
What are you feeding this dog? Rancid meat and cabbage? Shall I schedule an animal welfare check at her dinner time? Oh my god, how does anything on this earth produce such noxious fumes? Oh, well, I never.
Are we done? I yelled when she reached the porch steps.
Of course not.
She yelled back.
We're retreating until a more favorable wind comes our way.
Come on, let's get some cake and finish our conversation inside. I chuckled, happy it wasn't my emotional vulnerability that cleared the air, but one of Lucy's horrendous farts. Dusting the dirt off, I followed and made my way towards the house. At the time, I don't think either of us realized how often we were being watched in the garden. The four of us headed inside before the presence could make its presence known. Thank you for joining us on this episode of What We Keep Hidden. Tune in next time to see what happens. What We Keep Hidden is written, narrated, and produced by Nicole. This has been a Nicole creation.